Hello, actors. I'm Ava of Ava's Commercial Booking Class, and today we're going to discuss virtual auditions and how to set yourself up so you are giving the most professional audition possible. First off, what is a virtual audition? Well, in the traditional model of commercial casting sessions, the actor goes into this casting studio, they stand in front of the camera, and they audition for someone like me, the session director, or possibly the casting director themselves. We then record the actor's performance, and that's it. The actor's job is done. In a virtual audition, the actor sets up the camera and audition space in their home. They connect with the session director online, and the audition is recorded virtually. This means that there is a lot more responsibility on the actor. Not only do you have to deliver a good performance, but you also have to make sure that the director and the producer can see and hear that good performance. And this can be a little trickier than it seems. So let's go over the 6 most important things to remember when setting up your audition space. Number 1, room to move. Make sure you set yourself up in a space where you have room to move around. You don't need much space, but you should be able to move freely and be able to exit the frame unobstructed. I mean, just because it's a Zoom doesn't mean that it's a business meeting or a chat with friends. Sitting at your office desk or lounging on your bed or dialing in from your car is not going to cut it and will really restrict the quality of audition that you can deliver. Number 2, neutral background. Your audition space should also have an uncluttered, neutral background for you to stand in front of. The best is a blank wall or a backdrop. But if you don't have that, or you're gonna use another area of your house, just make sure it's as uncluttered as possible. We wanna focus in on you and not be distracted by your surroundings. Number 3, get that lighting right. Lighting is super important. We need to see you clearly, and not just you, but your eyes. In many spots, the difference between a good performance and a great performance comes down to a subtle reaction in your eyes. This is difficult to see if you are in a room that is too dark or too bright. So how do you light your audition space correctly? Well, there are a few ways. If your neutral background is in a space with windows, perfect. Use the natural light coming in, and that really may be all you need. But whatever you do, please do not stand with the window behind you. Trust me, you will be backlit and completely washed out. Facing the window can be a good choice, as it will typically give you enough light that we can see all of your features. You can also try having the natural light coming in from the side, though this may cause shadows on the other side of your face and require placing an artificial light to balance it out. If you don't have a window, or if the natural light is just not enough, you will need to use artificial lighting. This may be simply an overhead light or a lamp, but just because there is a light on in the room does not mean that it is lit well enough for camera. Remember, standard home lighting was not designed for audition purposes, and it can create deep shadows or bright halos if not positioned properly. Now, some actors invest in ring lights or some other type of production quality light, and personally, I think this is a very smart idea. After all, you are a professional actor. Show us that you take your craft seriously and make sure that you look as professional as possible. Ring lights are great because they can give you a controllable light. You can change their position as well as their color temperature. They are also relatively portable and cheap compared to more professional studio lights. Having a professional quality controlled light will make a huge difference to your audition setup. Just beware of a couple of traps. Because ring lights are pointing a strong concentration of light directly at your face, you do risk being overexposed. The best way to avoid this is simply by turning down the intensity. Most ring lights and other types of production lights do have this feature, and if they don't, you can always diffuse the light with a softbox or a sheet. The goal is for you to look natural, which means that some soft shadows are good. But whether you use natural light, ring lights, or your living room lamp, the most important thing is that we can see you clearly. So make sure you take the time to experiment with your lighting so it is showing you off the best it can. Number 4, sound. Now, sound is not going to be as important as lighting, but that doesn't mean that it's not still important. perfect. You most likely don't need to go out and buy an external mic, as 99% of the time the mic on your recording device will be just fine. But test it before your audition. If you're in a big room with high ceilings and no carpet, you may get a lot of echo. And maybe that means that you need to have a lav mic at the ready. But honestly, it's probably just easier for you to find a room with better acoustics. Also, just be aware of background noise. If an ambulance happens to drive by, that's honestly no big deal. It happens. But if your air conditioner is making a loud buzzing noise through your whole audition, or if the TV is blaring in another room, just turn it off. We want to hear you and not be distracted by what's happening off screen. Number 5, camera. Okay, so once you have your space set up, the next important thing to think about is how are you going to film your audition? Typically, the easiest options will be your phone, an iPad/tablet, or a desktop computer. All of these are great options. But remember that all devices, and especially all cameras, are not created equal. For example, a Zoom meeting on your computer may work perfectly fine, but it's a little dark and blurry. Meanwhile, a Zoom meeting on your phone could have great lighting, but it keeps freezing and getting glitchy. Just make sure to test your device so you can see the pros and cons for each. And while you're at it, please make sure that you have the best internet connection possible. If you can be hardwired into your modem, do that. If you can't, double check that you are actually on your strongest network and not jumping onto your neighbor's 2G signal by accident. Side note, if you are using a phone or tablet, just make sure that it is in landscape mode and not portrait. This is super important. And if your device seems to be having trouble switching between the two, your portrait orientation lock is probably on. You just have to switch it off and then you'll be fine. So how do we go about positioning your camera? I mean, there's a bit more to it than just pointing the camera at your face. First, check your audition notes or script and see if there's any indication of whether you should sit or stand. If you're unsure, just stand as a default, but try to set up your space so you could easily switch to sitting if needed. Second, make sure the camera is placed somewhere stable. If you are holding onto it, then you aren't able to perform freely. Also, it can make the recording very shaky and possibly blurry. Third, and in my opinion, the most important, make sure your camera is at eye level. When you're looking down at the camera, we really can't see you properly. Basically, we're looking up your nose and getting a great shot of your double chin. And if you think that just tilting your screen solves the problem, you're wrong. It's still not the right angle, and now we just get a great shot of your ceiling. Number 6, framing. Once your camera is set up and positioned well, you need to be framed well also. As mentioned, seeing your face and especially your eyes is very important in virtual auditions. But not too close. We still need to see that your head belongs to your body. There will most likely be some sort of movement or action required in the audition, so the frame needs to be wide enough that we can pick that up. The ideal frame is mid-chest with a little bit of space above you. Not too much, but also we don't want to cut off the top of your head. There may be times when the casting needs you to be a little wider or a little tighter in frame, but they'll direct you on that for that specific audition. If you start at mid-chest and you have the ability to adjust your setup easily, then you're set. Bonus helpful hint. To see what your space will look like when your audition is recorded, open up your Zoom app and click New Meeting or Start Personal Meeting. This will show you what your screen will look like in Zoom without having to be in an actual meeting with anyone. In fact, use this hint to help make sure all elements of your audition space are in place before your audition. I truly cannot stress this enough. Do not wait until you're in an actual Zoom meeting with the session director before you test all these elements. They just don't have the time in their schedule to help you figure it out. Put the time in now and set up the perfect virtual audition space so that when you come into the room for an actual audition, all you need to do is focus on your performance. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it or leave a comment, and we'll see you in the audition room very soon.